This is the Comedy Kiosk, podcast by Monday and Munoz. Please welcome Monday and Munoz.
Welcome to the Comedy Kiosk, a podcast in which we discuss news, opinions, and ideas about comedy. With you today is David Munoz and Igor Monday.
With you is David, and with David is Igor, as always.
Yes, and today's topic is Google autofill. Basically, we're just going to look, we're going to start a prompt, and we're going to see how it fills out, and then we're going to answer our query and what we think about it. And is that right, Igor? Is that what I'm doing? Is that what we're doing?
Well done. I'm curious to see what, because I'm not sure how it actually works. 15, 20 years ago, Google actually did those suggestions based on the most searched kind of terms. But I think nowadays...
Yeah, that's what I assumed.
I don't think it's like that. I think it's just, random because...
Advertising.
Yeah.
It's advertising. People pay to know, why do comedians always masturbate in public? And you're just like, who's paying for that ad? Who's paying for that?
First of all, it's one particular comedian. And second of all, I think nowadays it's more like this kind of suggestive AI or something like that. Like it's trying to predict what people would be searching. I don't think it has much.
Suggestive. All I'm picturing is there's an AI going, psst, you really want to look at comedians masturbating in public? No, stop suggesting things. No, really. Hey, check this out. Comedians doing stuff in public. No, I don't want to do that. It's fucked up. Anyway, that's where my mind went. Like suggestive AI. Always trying to. Like, it's called something. You want to put onions? You want to put more onions on your pizza? Oh, fuck off, AI. Fuck off.
Yeah. No, it is called something like that. Like this AI that's trying to predict. Even when you type on your phone, you have this like kind of next word that it thinks you're gonna need, kind of thing.
The predictive, the predictive thing, absolutely, yeah. No, I mean, yeah, it's meant to make things more efficient and more, what is it called? It's my brain just went completely brain fart. It's trying to create like the right kind of ads for you and all sort of thing, like, you know what I mean? It's setting it up to make it more efficient for you, and well, not for you really. At the end of the day, it's for them to be able to sell you more crap and get you to do more clicks and more links and all the rest, so that they get paid more by their advertising revenues and all the rest.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I'm not sure it's nowadays based on actual like queries that people search for. I think it's more like what the algorithm thinks should be the next logical like word or question. But still, let's check out a few prompts and see what are the most popular kind of questions that Google thinks people should be asking. So I typed in the first one, which is, why do comedians...
Okay, wait. So what do we think could be? I'm like, why do comedians always talk about blah, blah, blah? I think it's going to be like, always talk about relationships, or always talk about sex or something like that.
See, I would think so too. And if it was based on actual like Google searches, that would probably be one of them. And,
whoa,
something like, why do...
I just looked at it, and that's weird.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, do we even have the same ones? Because I think it's also a little bit like individual based on your kind of search history and everything. But I would actually assume that it would be more like, why do comedians talk about relationships? Why do comedians something like go on podcasts? Like, why does every comedian have a podcast?
Start podcasting.
So, all of this, but it's not. So for me, the first one is, why do...
Desperation, that's the answer. Why do comedians do podcasts? Desperation, downtime between performances.
So I don't know what your first one is, but mine is, why do comedians sweat so much?
Oh, that's my number 2. My number 1 is, why do comedians wear black?
Oh, I have that one as well, but it's down. It's like 7th or 8th. So why do comedians sweat so much?
The lights, the bright lights, because we're worried that no one's going to like us. Daddy issues, mummy issues, a low sense of self-worth down the drain, desperate for attention and a laugh, and waiting for that first laugh to kick in, and then the spotlight.
So opinion. I mean, I've felt so bad on stage because of usually on stage it's like 10 degrees more than the rest of the room, just because of the spotlights and everything, and because kind of you're still there sitting down and watching, but you're kind of moving around and you're being like physically active, let's say. So that's definitely a part of it. I also think a lot of comedians are not in like peak physical form, like as well. So it's usually like comedy is done in like, stuffy basements.
Bars.
So
and bars. Like we're surrounded by alcohol, chips, and beer and stuff like that. So we're not performing in gyms, people. We're not on a treadmill.
I would say that's a reasonable question, because I've seen comedians really sweat even professionals through like few layers of clothing during their special. You could see like sweat patches.
Absolutely. Okay, so now, actually, this is good. Like, why do comedians wear black? You know what? I don't know if comedians wear black. I'm a little bit anti that, because I think a lot of comedians, if they're self-conscious about what they're like on stage, they should be wearing like a bright color or a contrast to make them pop on the stage. Like wearing all black. I mean, Ricky Gervais and stuff like that, they do it, I got to admit. But I think once you get to a high level and you're on stage, and I think it's meant to be like, I feel comfortable sort of stuff. So I'm just going to wear all black. I don't need to pop. But when you're like beginning, usually, I don't know about how conscious you are about what you wear on stage, but my wife will occasionally be like, no, you got to change shirt. That one is going to blend into the background and you're not going to be noticed. You need to have a clear silhouette. Also, for any photos or any videos that you take, you want to be easily visible, especially for any movements that you make. You don't want to exactly like blend.
I think the wearing black thing, it comes from all of those, even like books, like kind of how to stand up and everything, because they always tell you don't be distracting. Don't let people kind of look at your shoes or look at your shirt or whatever. Let the people focus on your material and not like overthink your appearance, because if you come on stage and they spend like first 20 seconds thinking, why does this girl have like blue hair or something, they will just miss your like intro and they'll have like a different first impression.
I disagree. Bullshit. Look at Eddie Izzard when he first started, like getting up on stage, or when she first started now, getting up on stage and wearing, dressed to kill and stuff like that. The whole point is just pop, stand out. Or you look at Greg Proops, who wears this really nice suits and three-piece and stuff like that. Like, piss off. And what is it? What was it called? Billy Connolly. He used to wear, he almost looked like a court jester sometimes. He had these tight sort of stuff, and sometimes they had colors. And he was literally anti-beige. The man hated beige. He was like, if he saw someone wearing beige, he just wanted to rip off their pants and throw it into a fire or something. He hated it because it was like such conformist, sort of clothing sort of thing. Like, no, I mean, the whole point is comedians are meant to be outlandish sort of thing. I think, I think there's two types. There's the I blend in, I'm just the everyday person, such as your Jerry Seinfeld with I wear, white sneakers and jeans and with a blazer. Although that too, the white sneakers pop. And then you got the other side who are like, we're the court gestures, we're the flamboyant like rock stars. Like we want to like glam you.
Yeah, I think especially if you're a character comedian or something, or, someone who expresses themselves through their whole persona, like James Acaster always wears like ridiculous outfits. But then you have like, Gervais or CK or, this kind of school of comedy where it's just, like just wear something plain, because you don't want people to like pay attention to what you're wearing. You want them to just, listen to you, and Bill Burr and whatever. But all right, so I have an interesting one. That's second one for me, which is, why do comedians die young?
Oh, that one for me is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, just below the best one here. But why do comedians die? Well, the unhealthy diet for starters. If you're talking about also touring, like if they're touring but traveling around, they're not cooking for themselves. Again, unhealthy diets. I remember I met a comedian once. He'd been around since like the 90s. And so he was an old school comedian, and he popped into Madrid, did a set, Jonathan, and he mentioned like, because we're talking about like, making money and stuff like that. And he took a big break from comedy. Actually, he said he took like 15 years or something. Like he just didn't do it because, the money was shit and everything. But he's like, you're always looking for the Taco Bell $2 deal. Like, that's what he lived on, was like the Taco Bell $2 deal. And that's if you live on that, that's the only way you can start making a profit, because otherwise all your money goes into just stuff like just food.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely, like as we said, like living and working in a bar, basically, like most days a week. You're never gonna have like a healthy lifestyle. You're always gonna, even if you don't drink, you're gonna have, I mean, if you don't drink alcohol, you're gonna have like a Coke, something, like usually you wouldn't have like a glass of water or, whatever. And even
Cup
if
of
you
tea.
even if you do have a cup of tea, like you're staying up late, like the air is always shit, like stuffy basements, as we said. Like it's really, it's not a very rewarding lifestyle until a certain point. Like once you make it and you can do like, one show every 3 months, stay in a 5-star hotel and sell out like Las Vegas, then you're fine. But as long as you're like on the grind, kind of doing the circuit, it's horrible for both mental and physical health. So.
Exactly. And I think also because most comedians would probably start when they're young. Like, and when we talk about young, I think like usually in comedian circles, that's like you get started before you're 25 sort of thing. Like you started when you were like 18, 19, 20. That's generally considered the where a lot of comedians started off sort of thing. Unlike, myself who started extremely late in their like early 30s, like 10 years late technically. But the point is you're young, you're going out clubbing as well. Like after a show, they still, rave on because they got the energy. And yeah, they're eating unhealthy, but their bodies are metabolizing it, but it's still not doing them any favors. So I think that also, it's kind of based on the past as well. Like a lot of people, like, young comedians, when smoking was a thing in bars and things like that. So I think a lot of comedians, took a lot of passive secondhand smoke and it's probably smoked themselves. Like it was very common to see comedians in the old days on stage with a cigarette in hand performing. It was almost like a tool. They could use it as they used it as a visual prop. They used it to kind of highlight and like wave it around a little bit, which, it's the distracting thing. I think that also drugs.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in some periods, like I'm pretty sure those like 60s or whatever, like, Lenny Bruce or someone, like those guys were like on a lot of substances presumably, and there wasn't that much awareness back then about any of these things, like smoking,
heroin,
drinking,
like... I think Lenny Bruce was heroin, I think was his thing, like, hard drugs. Richard Pryor, he had a thing with heroin as well. Then in the 80s, it was all cocaine and stuff like that. Like that was the big thing. The 90s got back into heroin. It's the performance sort of thing. It's like a rock stars, like actors and all the rest. Like they get into... a lot of them also get into that sort of lifestyle, Chris Farley, all the rest of them.
So that's why comedians die young. We have solved it.
So
I do have like two very similar ones, and one,
fun.
Like just, I don't think it's even I don't think we need to spend time answering this. Why do comedians hate hecklers? Why not? They interrupt their like performance. And then there are two which are basically the same thing. Why do comedians introduce themselves? And why do comedians announce themselves? Like, come on, it's a...
Yep, I got those two as well.
It's a performing card. Of course, like someone's gonna, well, not themselves, but I want to be introduced. Like obviously you want that kind of hype and like drum roll and stuff.
I think what they mean is like, like for example, when I get up on stage, and it's a lot of times, I start off with like, hi, I'm David, I'm from Australia, blah, blah, blah. Like it's the introduce. And I think the reason why is because you want the audience to become familiar with who you are and you're setting up your persona at the beginning of your set so they don't know what kind of style, whether it contradicts what you do later, like as an oxymoron, sort of like, not an oxymoron, it's a contradiction as like a counterpoint, or whether it's further affirming, sort of thing. Like you take someone like Emo Phillips who comes out and he's automatically making those weird noises and gestures and he's like, hey everybody, like just that introduction, I'm Emo Phillips, but just by those few couple of words there, what's his name, Noel Fielding, when he comes out, there's a brilliant bit, he comes out, he goes, hello you cheeky otters, how are you, look at you, I've got a face, you've got a face, blah, blah, and he just shows his absurdity within the first couple of lines of introducing himself to the audience. I mean, that's it. It's about setting up. You're setting yourself up.
Yeah. And then my favorite one on the list, I think you have it as well, probably.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. You want to say it or do you want me to say? Okay, I'll say it. It says, why do comedians love eggs? What the... what? Do we love eggs? I don't remember. Is it a metaphor or something for the hard exterior of the audience that when we finally break through, there's yolky goodness?
I don't know any, like, I don't even know where it comes from. Like, if there was some kind of famous bit, like maybe something from back in the day, like Seinfeld or something that talked about eggs for 20 minutes, but I absolutely don't remember it. So...
No, come on, Igor. It's done by the Eggs Cartel, all right? This one is paid, all right? This was the Eggs Cartel has paid Google, and they've basically forced it into, for me, it's number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the fifth search easily right in the middle, grabs attention. It's there to basically be a focal point for the eggs cartel, the eggs mafia.
Do you think it's like that when you,
know,
search for any, like industry? Like why do lawyers love eggs?
Eggs, absolutely. I think you're going to find love eggs everywhere, and it's just basically it's the egg lobby. They're trying to get people to subconsciously think that everybody else loves eggs, so they feel left out, and they start going, "Oh no! I love eggs too. I really love eggs too. I love it. I think eggs are brilliant.
I think they are excellent."
Yeah.
All right, so let's do a different search. Let's do comedians.
Ooh, okay. Do comedians. Okay. What do you think it's going to be?
I think it's going to be like do comedians. Well, what should be something like do comedians write their own material? Like
true.
Do comedians?
Do comedians prepare?
Yeah.
Do they prepare?
Earn a lot of money.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. Do comedians earn a lot of money? Yeah. Okay. So let's have a look. Let's see what we got.
Okay.
Do
some
comedians?
These make more sense, to be honest. These are the questions that people would actually be asking. So I do have a couple of like, do comedians make good money and do comedians get paid?
Number 3. Yeah, that's number 3 for me. Make good money. Get paid is towards the bottom, but it's here. What's your number 1?
Do comedians have openers?
Me too. That's the out. But what's your number 2? Because my number 2 is an interesting
2 and 3
one.
for me are the money ones. Do they make money and do they get paid?
For my number 2 is do comedians have high IQ?
Yeah, I mean this is I think they do, but like high IQ is hard to. Yeah, some have like emotional IQ, so they can kind of feel the room and like who they can push, who they cannot. Some obviously have like this creative IQ and so on. But one thing I will say is I kind of watched this BBC program where like 4 celebrities basically play a quiz, and it's kind of like different things. It's some logic puzzles, it's some kind of trivia knowledge, it's some kind of like guessing, educated guesses. It's like various questions, and almost always, I would say like 90 to 95% of the time, if there is a comedian in the lineup, they win the show. Yeah. So it could be like...
So basically, what you're saying is if you watch this show and someone says place bets, your money should go on the comedian.
Yeah, but it's like, to be fair, that show is a little bit rigged towards how comedian thinks, because it's a lot of this, like conclude something or make an educated guess or, like see the connections between two things. But even in, like simple kind of trivia rounds, like what's the capital of Brazil, for example, comedians would still do much better than like TV presenters, sports people, musicians, radio hosts, like all the kind of other celebrities, journalists, whatever that they have on there. So I would say that comedians are definitely more knowledgeable, because I think also you have to be to kind of, to provide your observation or input, you have to, constantly consume a lot of like content and news and, think about things from different angles and stuff.
Absolutely. I don't think they're born with a high IQ. And I put that really into parentheses because I'm really not an IQ person, whatever. But I think they develop. I think if you do comedy for long enough, because you have to see, like you said, you develop these things. You develop these skill sets of trying to see things from different perspectives and trying to make connections and stuff like that. So I think that's where... Because, I don't think people with high IQs then go into comedy or anything like that. I think it's more along the lines of you just develop, certain skills and abilities. That's why I don't think it's high IQ. I just think it's a certain mindset and a certain way of looking at things and being critical, but also at the same time being comically critical, where you see the funny side, you see the ridiculousness of everything. So it kind of reminds me a lot of the comic Watchmen, the Joker in that, or the comedian as his name is. And the whole point is that, the big joke that, when your comic is like, he's a horrible person who's like murdering people and things like that, or killing people for government and stuff. But the reason why he's a comedian, because he sees everything as a big joke. He just realizes it's all futile and that it doesn't matter at the end of the day. And that's why he's got that, Semblin way is always smiling, even though he's a horrible person, because he's realizing it means nothing. The whole thing is just a waste of time, really. And, that's kind of the mindset sort of thing, like the way to see things from a certain weird way. Anyway, he's a psychopath. So basically what I'm saying is all comedians are psychopaths. That should be up here in the Google searches. Do comedians have psychopathic brains, and the
I
answer
think
is yes. All
we can
comedians are
definitely search
psychopaths.
for like are all comedians or something next, but let's see.
Ooh, that's a good one
Yeah.
next. Okay, so what else we got here? Do comedians make good money? No, unless you're Jim Gaffigan, Kevin Hart, all those big wigs.
Yeah, but I would say also outside of those like 5 to 10 super successful and famous people, like Gervais, Seinfeld, Hart, like Burr, whatever. Even all the others, like kind of the Netflix comedians and so on, I don't think it's comparable to any like actor or singer or any other like if you're famous enough. I'm talking singer, like also you don't have to be like Madonna or whoever, like Taylor Swift. I think even if you're like a kind of local band that has gigs in some hotel every Friday, you'll still make more money than a local comedian doing like the circuit.
Absolutely, like just performing. If you're going on tour, if you're up to touring stage where you can do. I mean, don't we? You got like I think you got your Stuart Goldsmiths and you've got your oh god, my brain just went, like your Maria Bamfords and stuff. Who? Well, actually, no, I'd say she's probably even a little bit higher up, but. And all those other comedians. You got touring comedians, especially in Britain. You got these like well-established touring comedians, and I think they make good enough money. Like they can, they can afford a house and stuff like that. But like they make a decent cash. But I think that's like they're on the grind. You know what I mean? Like they are working for that money. They're constantly touring. They're writing new material on a very regular basis. They're not resting on their laurels, whatever. And that's just to make a house. Well, on the other hand, like you said, like with a musician, you make your album, you tour that album, and then you can take a little downtime and stuff like that. I don't think
you make
comedians can really take that
especially
downtime.
if you have like a hit song or something and you get all the like streaming royalties and whatever, like
Although I hear that's pretty
it's
shit.
pretty shit,
the
but it
streaming
can be
royalties. I've
it
heard
can be
that's
like
pretty
a
shit.
stable. I mean, even if you have a song that hits, I don't know, like let's say like 100,000 listens a month, for example, you would get something like 0.0003 cents a hit, which comes down to, let's say, €1,000 a month, for example.
Yeah,
which
that's
is
still
nothing
something.
in real money. Like, it's not going to like pay or rent or, kind of put your kid through school or whatever. But what does comedian have from like a YouTube joke? Nothing. I still think, especially if we talk about like actors and stuff, and they also have those like guilds and everything where, they are kind of compensated properly for any, like usage of any, like anytime a movie from the 90s plays on some like random channel in Romania, they probably get something out of it. And
Exactly. I think there's more longevity. Like the more often, like the few albums that you have, as long as you can put them on compilation stuff and things like that, you end up making more cash. Okay, so I've got a couple here that are kind of all. I want to put them all together in one big group, so we can kind of like knock it out in one hit. There are a series of statements that I think are interesting. It's: do comedians make up stories? Do comedians have writers? Do comedians buy jokes? Do comedians lie?
Yeah, so I don't have the buy writers one, but I have, like make up story.
Have writers, yeah. Buy jokes, buy jokes.
So I have make up stories, steal jokes, lie, and have managers, which...
And you know what? I think these Google searches are saying a lot more about us than about actually comedians. It's like, why did you get the stealing one? And why do I get buying jokes and have writers? What are you trying to say here, Google? Are you trying to hint at something? You're saying, I need to have writers? Are you trying to tell me this? Oh my God.
No, but I think this is just, general questions about the craft that we've discussed in many like makeup stories. We discussed about our jokes, like stealing jokes, all of that we've discussed in different episodes. So here out of this list, I would also just point out one which is very kind of contradictory to the previous search, which says, do comedians live longer?
Ooh, no.
And we have answered that.
Nope. Okay, and now I got the last one for the do comedians one. I because it's a counterpoint to the previous one. Do comedians to a previous one? Sorry. Do comedians like hecklers?
Oh, yeah. Also, so like, why do comedians?
And why is it right at the bottom? Right at the bottom. I'm like, yeah, that's the right.
But
place
that's like that's kind of the different side of the coin. Like, why do comedians hate hecklers, or do comedians like hecklers? Like it's a.
yeah. Is it just another way of flirting? Like, is that how you can grab a comedian's attention? Just to do a little heckle?
All right. So let's do: are all comedians?
Okay, I think this could be the last search that we do.
So I think it should be something like, there will be a question like,
Yeah, what do you
are
think it's
all
going to be?
comedians fat, depressed?
Depressed.
Yes. Are all
Yes.
comedians men? It could be, because I know that like it's always a popular
yeah.
topic, you know,
Yeah.
like number of kind of male versus females in comedy. Are all comedians? Well, let's see. Are all comedians?
Yeah.
Okay, it doesn't actually answer.
Oh, no.
Like, are all comedians? It's more like random.
No. Our stand-up comedians, funny? Who are all the comedians? How many stand-up comedians are there? How many professional comedians? Yeah, it's just random questions. Who, what, where, when questions,
Yeah.
really.
So let's try a different
How many?
prompt. What can it be?
So how do comedians, let's do this prompt. What do you think it's going to pop up? How do comedians write stuff?
Yeah, it's probably the like very obvious
Yeah.
questions, you know. How do
Yeah.
they write stuff? How do they start in comedy? How do they remember
Yeah.
the jokes? This kind of stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, let's see. How do comedians... Yep. Oh, yeah, exactly. How do comedians... I got write jokes, remember their set, get paid, remember their jokes, come up with jokes, not laugh, get started, get Netflix specials, go for the money, baby, and just how do comedians? Just
How do comedians?
comedians?
Yeah. Okay,
How do comedians, yeah.
another useless one. Then let's try with...
Oh, no. I've got a good one. I've got good
Okay,
ones.
okay.
Okay. So mine are, how do comedians change their routine? How often do comedians change their routine? How often do comedians plant audience? Ooh, that's a goodie. How often do comedians go on tour? How often do comedians bomb? How often do comedians lie? And then there's some really weird rando shit. That's nothing to do with comedy.
Yeah, I don't know, like, how often do comedians plant audience? I mean, I did have shows where I had, like, you know, my friends and stuff, but I don't think I've ever told someone, you know, you have to laugh.
No, I think what they mean by plant audience is in, like, they for example, there's that guy who he's a in parentheses good looking fella, young fella, comedian, where he got a little bit of flack because he planted, like, he's known for being able to deal with hecklers. He's kind of an impromptu comedian. I can't remember his name right now, but he's like does a whole bunch of shit, and then basically it was sort of found out that he had people in the audience who would yell stuff out to him, and he would obviously have his stuff prepared. So the banter was actually fake, you know what I mean? Or at least the beginnings of it was sort of set up. And that's what I think it means by plant audience, like not just having your friend in the audience, but basically saying, hey, so what I want you to do is when I do this bit, I'd like you to yell this out, and then I'm just gonna riff on that, which you obviously not because you've already pre-planned it, but it's just boom, and then you get up there and you look freaking awesome because you have that recorded, you're recording that bit, and then you can post it saying, look how well I handled this situation. We go, oh, you're so awesome. So yeah, how often do you think comedians plant audiences? Like I said, there's that case of that one guy. I can't remember his name for shit, but whatever.
I think it's more like in everyday life. I think it's people who this kind of thing, like bring friends or bring someone who like is gonna start a clap or like an applause break or something like this, rather than actually like teaching someone a script. Like
no, but for me, that would be like bring audience. And in which case, when we all try to bring an audience, we try to bring people because we need to fill out the set, especially in the beginning when you're like, we have 7 tickets sold. Can you tell your friends and family that we're doing a show? I think, but a plant is someone who's there to do something in particular. A plant is someone who's set up, like they're going to set something up. Whether they just yell one single phrase out, like, and then you can bounce off that and just make a reference. Like I said, this guy, that's what he got busted for.
I don't think it happens that often because I think comedians are not always good actors, and it would look very kind of fake if it was, like...
Yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of these now, like dealing with heckler ones, though, because they're so popular and monetized, and they are the most popular videos out there when it comes to comedians these days, algorithmically speaking, on YouTube. I think actually planting an audience to set that stuff up is not as uncommon as we'd like it to be, actually. I get the feeling, suspicion, when you get to those people who have high streams on YouTube, but they're still amateur comedians, if you know what I mean, like the new batch who are really doing it, like they're using it as a marketing tool really well, and it's great. But it gets to the point where it's like, okay, sometimes you might not have the right audience, or you're not firing on all cylinders. So, occasionally they might set it up, and maybe it's a little boost sort of thing, because I think that's it. Okay. What about how often do comedians bomb? All right, Igor, how often do you bomb? How often do we all bomb? How often do comedians bomb?
And thank you so much for listening. We've been David and Igor. I'm not going to answer that question. I think it's, I think at some point, I don't remember when was the last time I bombed. It's just because I think I remember when was the last time, that the
I bombed.
show or my set didn't go well. But
yeah.
I would say that at some point, as long as you have enough people in the room, because if you have 4, 5, 7, 10 people, then it's going to be a flat show either way. But as long as you have a good room, I'll honestly say that at this stage I don't think I can bomb. I can kind of not do well, but I think a bomb is really a kind of embarrassment. You kind of nothing works and people are actively thinking get the fuck off the stage.
I think it only happens a couple of times at the beginning, really. I think, and until you just learn to deal with it, or you just get comfortable with those awkwardness and you just learn how to dig yourself out. I think, because I can think of 2 kind of bombings and only really one proper bomb where I walked off going, oh my God, that sinking feeling where you're like, whoa, that was proper. That was a bombing. But the other one was basically I screwed up the set. That was the final where I did 20 minutes in 7 minutes, where I went so fast. And I still got a couple of chuckles, but I screwed it up. I didn't say I bombed, but I definitely screwed it. And I would classify that as like a bomb, I suppose. It'd be yep, I bombed it. But it wasn't horrendous. I just walked off going, fuck. So
I cannot, definitely in the first 2-3 years, I've had sets that didn't really work and rooms that didn't really work. But I never felt that kind of, okay, I got 5 minutes of nothing, an active kind of myself or act or something that I would walk off stage and be like, maybe I'm not cut out for this, maybe I should not do it. So I don't know. But I think that's all the interesting prompts we managed to squeeze out of Google. If there would be some new interesting or funny or curious questions popping up, we might do a follow-up on this episode as well in some months or in some years. Let's see how often does Google update or refresh their algorithm. And nowadays with this suggestive AI, generative AI, whatever it's called, predictive AI, I think things are going to get even funnier, because I don't think it's taking into consideration real questions, but it's more kind of trying to predict what people will be asking, and people are apparently very interested in why do we sweat so much. So.
And we're black, and do we plant audiences?
And do we love eggs? That's the most
and eggs.
important.
Of course we love eggs. It's protein, man. You just need it before you get on stage. A bit of protein. It gives you that energy, it gives you that boost. I mean, who wants a whiskey or a vodka to loosen the nerves? Who needs a Coke to give you the caffeine? Screw that. You want an egg.
I mean, as a comedian, you definitely don't want an egg, especially being thrown at you, like a tomato, egg, something like this. But yeah, I don't think that really happens in real life anymore. But so that's what Google thinks of comedians, or what other people or algorithms think of comedians. Thank you so much for listening. I've been Igor Monday.
And I've been David Munoz. Good night.
Thank you and goodbye.